How to set default user for manually installed WSL distro? I have cloned a WSL distro using WSL export and WSL import, but now running WSL new distro always logs me in as root. I understand that the xrun command is deprecated and want to avoid it. The docs recommend using distroname.xconfig, but that doesn't work since this one doesn't have a corresponding executable.
As of the time of this writing, there are at least 3, let's call it 3.5, different methods of changing/setting the default user in an imported WSL instance. While the 2 that have already been mentioned still work, there is a Microsoft recommended way to do it that hasn't been mentioned yet in this question. Method 1 /etc/wsl.conference. The current Microsoft recommended way of setting the username in an instance is to create a /etc/wsl.conference in the instance with the following setting. Changing, of course, username to be your default username. Exit your distro/instance, then issue a WSL terminate and alt distroname and gt from PowerShell or cmd. When you restart, the default user should be set. This is safer and less error-prone than the registry-based methods. Method 2, registry key. Setting the registry key per Haring's answer. Method 3, useraccounts offline. Using useraccounts offline to set the registry entry, as described in Jaime's answer. Ultimately, this has the same effect as method 2. Method 4, runtime user selection via WSL command line argument. The username can be selected when starting any WSL instance by WSL-u username or WSL-d distroname-u username, etc. For instance, WSL-d ubuntu-u root. Side note, this question was specifically about setting the default username in an imported instance. However, for completeness, you can also set the default username for a distro that was installed from the store, or WSL install, with. For instance, if you installed Ubuntu 20.04 from the store, you would use the .x. Here is an app execution alias in Windows. You can check the name by going to Manage App Execution Aliases in the Windows System Settings. For readers who need to create a new user, Ndemu made a good point in the comments last year that I, in hindsight, dismissed improperly. 2 other users have now mentioned in the comments that Ndemu's information was helpful. My belated apologies. Here's the additional information based on Ndemu's advice. Some users who find this answer may be starting up as root not because they imported a distribution, but possibly because the default user was never created during installation in the first place. This can happen when the distribution installation is stopped prematurely, and likely for other reasons as well. Under Ubuntu, the default distribution for WSL, you can create your user by starting with If you need to, add the D and LT, distribution and GT option. Then run. Then set the user as the default using the /etc/wsl.conference, as mentioned above. If you've already created the user, or are using a different distribution, As Agnemo points out, make sure to also add the user either to a group, that is in sudoers, or directly to sudoers via Visual. See the answers to this question for additional details.
The normal command syntax is for example. However, this does not work for an imported distro, which is started by the following command. Try this undocumented method. Use regedit and navigate to the key p_user_current_Microsoft_Windows/current version/LXSS. Examine its subkeys for a distribution that has the right name in the item distribution name. Create or modify a Word item named default UID and set it to the user ID, UID, of your default user. Here root user is ID 0 while the first user ID is 1000, 0x3e8. If this does not work for your setup, you would need to run as. For more information see Export and import WSL Linux distro in Windows 10. Set default user for WSL in Windows 10.
Verify the UID of the user that you want to set as default in your Linux console by id. Verify the distro name in PowerShell by WSL-LV. Edit the registry in PowerShell. Should be good by now.
None of the answers worked for me on Windows 11 with an imported Ubuntu distribution. This is more than likely because my user is a domain user rather than local. What worked is go into regedit and search for LXSS via Ctrl+F. If it comes up with something like this, then edit default to it and change the value to your user ID from the distribution. In my case it is 3E8 hexadecimal and 1000 decimal.
Yes.